have decided for the month of April to give myself the birthday present of stepping out of my comfort zone and sharing my stories. Hello and welcome back. Welcome back to the Mentor of Life podcast, whether you're catching this on YouTube or Spotify or Apple Podcasts, wherever podcasts are heard, listened to, or watched. This month, I'm going to deviate from my themes a little bit, and I'm going to be sharing my story. Now, I'm going to be sharing it over the next 4 weeks of April. April is my birth month, so I have a birthday coming up, and I'm very excited about that. I'm not going to tell you how old I am just yet. Maybe it will come out in one of the stories, but hey, now I'm going to be sharing my story. Now, why am I doing this? I'm somebody who, full disclosure, is intensely uncomfortable with sharing stories of my own life. So, for a bunch of reasons, I think to myself, who cares about what your story is? Give people what they want to hear. Maybe you have a tip to share, a trick, a strategy or something. I am a consummate strategist. I am a problem solver. Give me a problem and I'll break it down, or at least I'll find somebody who can solve it for you. But over time, I have learned that stories are a way for people to resonate with you, to connect with you, and to see if there's common ground. Do you even have the wherewithal to speak into what they're dealing with? And I have decided for the month of April to give myself the birthday present of stepping out of my comfort zone and sharing my stories. Stories from my life, stories from my childhood, and maybe there'll be some tips and strategies thrown in because like I said, I'm a consummate strategist. But Here I am to share the story of my life. If it resonates with you, great. And if it doesn't, also great. Either way, here I am. Now, just a bit of a backstory and introduction to myself and what I do, in case you're just stumbling on this. My name is Shola Ezokoli. Fun fact, I happen to be the only one in the world by that name. So please, if you're an Ezokoli, don't name your child Shola. And I do a lot of things, but to sort of break it down, I am a physician. I provide coverage in places where there's maybe a shortage or someone's gone on leave, etc. Things like that. In the physician world, we refer to this as locums or locum tenens. I also spend most of my days coaching my clients. I have a life coaching business. I speak nationally and internationally. I've done the TEDx stage. I've spoken in different countries all over the world. So that's, I'm going to say in a nutshell, what I do these days. But I'm sure more things are going to come out as I share my stories. Now, here we are 3 minutes in, and you guys are like, what is the story? Okay, so today's story, I'm going to call this one Money Fights. Yes, Money Fights. And why am I starting with this story? Great question. One of my best viewed podcasts, and you can go back and view it, it's on my YouTube channel and on my podcast, is titled How Not to Be Poor. And when I did this, I did not think anybody was going to listen to it. My first thought was, who's going to care what an ordinary person like you has to say about not being poor? Lo and behold, that's my best viewed episode, and people still view it today, 2 years later. So maybe there's something there. But this is something for me that's shaped a lot of what I do currently. And I just want to go ahead and share. So money fights, what are money fights, right? Have you ever fought somebody about money? Either fought them to get your money, maybe you owe them money, maybe they're fighting you about money, maybe you're fighting somebody because there's not enough money to solve whatever problem you need to solve, right? I grew up with money fights. These were my parents. They fought about money. They complained about money. They talked about money. They were constantly, it was a constant thing in our home. We don't have enough money. They complained about the government not doing enough. They complained about salaries not keeping up with the cost of living. Does that sound familiar? And they complained about the corporation that my dad worked for and corporations in general. They complained about rich and greedy people. And I grew up hearing this. So now, kind of, as an adult looking back, I could see how that affected the way I viewed money generally. And honestly, the long and short of it is that money is a thing that is never enough, and you're never going to have enough of it. And, grew up with this fear of being broke. So that even when I was making my first, I would say, grown-up salary as a doctor, which was 6 figures, I was scared of being broke. And another story within a story. We met with a financial planner, many years ago, a financial advisor, and he said, okay, what are you spending your money on? And we kept, we writing this budget and trying to find out where this money was, because he was trying to give us advice on how to manage our finances, better budget, etc. And when he looked over the numbers, he says, there's $3,000 every month that is unaccounted for. Where is it? And I looked at my husband, I said, where's the money? And he looked at me and was like, where's the money? And of course, at that point, he said to me, how do you feel? I said, I feel broke and stupid. He said, you're not broke. And it was years later that I realized the implied, the implication in the unspoken part of that sentence. You're not broke, but maybe you're stupid. Anyway, all this to say that a lot of what we go through in our childhood affects the way we view money. And a lot of us have not unpacked that because we think we can out-earn our fears. Let me tell you something, you cannot. I've had clients who were millionaires and afraid of having no money. And I'm not talking about net worth millionaires like, well, if you subtract the liabilities from the assets, you have a net worth of 1 million. No, I'm talking about people who making $1 million a year, etc. kind of thing. And really concerned, big concerns and fears about being broke, which went back to a time in their childhood where they just lost everything. So they went from being fairly well off to tumbling all the way down the socioeconomic and financial ladder. And let me tell you something, that does something to a child. For me, it was constantly hearing that money is a thing that wasn't enough. It was constantly hearing that, we don't have enough money, we can't afford this, etc., etc. And constantly feeling that, are we poor? We're eating, and not wondering. Now, here is a tip. Like I said, there's always going to be a tip thrown in because it's me. If you and your spouse have the habit of talking about money in negative ways, try to stop. Try to stop. At the very least, don't do it in front of your children, because smaller children don't really have a context, and all that happens is they become afraid. Okay. Also, if you're somebody that grew up with people always complaining about money, or you never had enough, believe me, let me tell you something. You have some degree of poverty trauma that you cannot out-earn. I don't like to use the word poverty mentality because poverty mentality blames the person with the so-called mentality. I actually prefer to use the phrase poverty trauma because it is trauma. It is trauma. That feeling of never having enough and your mind always racing like, oh my goodness, maybe it's going to be taken away from me. Or even though you may have money physically sitting in your bank account, you feel like it's going to be gone. Or you have this urge to spend anytime you get money, like, oh, let me spend it. The reason why you're thinking like that is because you're afraid it's going to be gone. So you're like, well, let me quickly spend it before it goes away. So you will never, even if you have a lot of money, you won't leave it sitting in your bank account. That feeling of like, whenever you want to buy something, the first thing you think of is not whether it's good, is whether it's cheap. Okay, that too can come from poverty trauma. Now, there is nothing wrong with budgeting and buying cheap things. Okay, I am a person who actually boasts about buying cheap things. Like this dress, I think I bought it for $30 on TikTok Shop or something. Yes, I will brag about cheap things I bought. I once bought a pair of glasses, the frames, for $1, simply because every time someone would tell me, oh, nice glasses, I'd be like, yeah, I got them for $1. Okay, so I'm not saying you should buy everything expensive. However, there is an extreme one goes to where the only value to something is if it's cheap. But sometimes cheap can be expensive. If you're buying a pair of pants every 3 months, because you bought it cheap and it's like it falls apart, then in the long run it becomes expensive. So what am I saying? All this to say, if you grew up like me, watch it. Go to therapy. You may need hypnosis. You may need trauma-informed coaching. And when I coach people, these are some of the things we excavate. Like, okay, even though I'm not a therapist, I ask people, what affects how you think about money? And it's interesting what comes up. Because you find people who are high earners or potentially high earners either under earning or overspending just because of these scripts, I call them scripts and programs that are running in the background of our minds. So anyway, back to my parents, they fought about money a lot and it wasn't pleasant. It was not pleasant. And unfortunately, when my father died, I believe they were in the middle of another money fight. Yeah. For me, I decided that this was not worth it. Having money fights with somebody to the point where our relationship just more or less falls apart is sad. So yeah, like I said, this is not scripted. So I'm talking about this is kind of very, very much outside of my comfort zone. Anyway, I had to do a lot of work. I had to get coached, I had to get therapy, and I had to journal and unpack my own fears it was always a fear of going broke, no matter how much I had in my bank account. And if you keep fearing going broke, guess what will happen to you one day? You will go broke. You could potentially go broke anyway, but if that's one of your driving fears, it will eventually happen. Because, the good book says, as a man thinks in his heart, so is he, or so does he become. Eventually, you will become that thing you think about or dominates your thoughts. And then, when you're in that mindset, you can't enjoy life because you feel like you constantly have to struggle to keep your head above water. And like I said, it doesn't matter the amount you have. If you're suffering with poverty trauma, you need to solve that problem. You need to come to a sense of security and certainty within yourself, whether that's with coaching, whether that's with therapy. And I think I mentioned hypnosis as well, because sometimes that's what you need to get over these deep-rooted things that can actually haunt you for the rest of your life if they're not taken care of. So, there you have it. Sharing my story, part 1. So stay tuned, subscribe, follow, like, etc. so that once part 2 drops, you can get it in your notifications. Thank you so much for watching and listening, and I will see you next time.